Catholic Commentary on today's liturgical gospel reading, Matthew 23, verses 27 to 32. The fifth and sixth woes castigate the scribes and Pharisees for focusing on outward purity while failing to maintain inward purity. Two metaphors are used as illustrations, one that compares them to half-washed dishes, and another that compares them to whitewashed tombs. First, Jesus recalls the Pharisaic practice of purifying all eating utensils down to the last cup and dish. Clearly, these objects are meant to symbolize his opponents, who are like dishes that are cleansed on the outside but left unclean on the inside. In other words, the scribes and Pharisees are careful to maintain the ritual purity of the body, even while their hearts are contaminated with desires for plunder and self-indulgence. Again, they are charged with being blind to what is most important. Then Jesus makes reference to the Jewish custom of whitening tombstones and burial monuments. The practice may have involved plastering the stones with a fresh coat of chalk after weathering pitted the limestone surface. According to the law of Moses, physical contact with the dead, including their bones and graves, made a person ritually unclean, unfit to enter the Lord's sanctuary and at risk of defiling others. This practice, too, is a fitting description of the scribes and Pharisees, who maintain a pious appearance on the outside, but inside harbor the filth of hypocrisy and evil-doing. Regardless of their outward appearance, they are inwardly unclean and capable of spreading their corruption to others. The seventh woe is the most serious indictment of the scribes and Pharisees. Their religious crimes reach the level of murder. Of course, this is not how they appear, for they are accustomed to honoring the slain prophets of Israel through the upkeep and adornment of their tombs and memorials. Moreover, they publicly disclaim any consent to the murderous violence of their ancestors. But Jesus knows their hidden character and how they are plotting to destroy him. On the premise that sons and daughters usually act as their parents do, he accuses them of being children of those who murdered the prophets, for they are poised to do the very same thing to the Messiah. Jesus thus urges them to fill up what previous generations have measured out. The image is that of a cup filled with human iniquity. The murder of Israel's ancestors brought the level of transgression to the brim. When the scribes and Pharisees arrange the murder of Jesus, the cup will spill over. This will cause the wrath of God, which has been held back until the full measure is reached, to burst forth against the perpetrators. Jesus not only refers to his own passion, but he speaks also about the suffering of his first disciples. These too the religious authorities will scourge and pursue, even kill and crucify. As a result, the scribes and Pharisees, along with a generation of their contemporaries, will reap the dreadful consequences of shedding innocent blood. From the fratricide of Abel in the beginning to the homicide of Zechariah many centuries later. It is probable that Jesus is speaking about the Roman conquest of Jerusalem and Judea in the war of AD 66 to 70 in the realm of historical judgments such as this. Suffering is often a collective experience that falls on the righteous and the wicked alike as a consequence of national solidarity and collective guilt. Thus, when sin flourishes in a nation, the entire nation is destined to experience temporal judgments. Reflection and application. The Lord's indictment of the Pharisees should lead us, especially those involved in Christian leadership, to a sober examination of conscience. What is most alarming about the Pharisees is their total unawareness of their dire condition. Given this human capacity for spiritual blindness, we have every reason to pray for the grace of self-knowledge. The questions that follow are based on Jesus' reproof of the Pharisees. Using them to examine ourselves, we can strive to avoid the conduct that Jesus found so displeasing. 1. Do I practice what I preach? 3. 2. Do I help others live by God's standards, or do I simply instruct them on what those standards are? 4. 3. Do I perform religious actions to impress others or to obtain God's approval? 5. 4. Do I desire salutations of honor? 6 to 7. 5. Do I relate to people in a way that welcomes them to conversion, or do I imply by my actions that they are not welcome in the kingdom? 13. Sustego doaje vade responsibilities be legalisti reasoning vvo. 16 to 22. 7. Do I emphasize lesser matters to the neglect of justice, mercy, and fidelity? V. 23. 8. In my spiritual life, do I seek to cleanse the inside of the cup, my heart and inner attitudes, or do I mainly focus on exterior matters? VV. 25 to 26. These questions identify the typical faults of people who are trying to live the Christian life on their own strength. To rise above them, and so avoid the failings of the Pharisees, we need the grace that God wants to give us through prayer and regular confession. From the Gospel of Matthew Catholic Commentary, here's today's actual Gospel reading below. Matthew 23, verses 25 to 36. Jesus said, "Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, you hypocrites! You are like whitewashed tombs, which appear beautiful on the outside, but inside are full of dead men's bones and every kind of filth. Even so, on the outside you appear righteous, but inside you are filled with hypocrisy and evil-doing. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, you hypocrites! You build the tombs of the prophets and adorn the memorials of the righteous, and you say, if we had lived in the days of our ancestors, we would not have joined them in shedding the prophets' blood. Thus you bear witness against yourselves that you are the children of those who murdered the prophets. Now fill up what your ancestors measured out." Psalm: Blessed are those who fear the Lord. Whoever keeps the word of Christ, the love of God is truly perfected in him. Alleluia, alleluia.